On this show, we follow the money, and when VSiN decided to launch our own store, the smart money was on Shopify. Getting the VSiN store off the ground was easier than we expected, and Shopify's templates and AI tools had us look incredible and professional from day one. Zero coding required. Shopify checkout keeps sales moving smoothly, and returning customers can complete a purchase in one click. Built-in analytics, you always know what's selling and where your customers are coming from and how to keep the momentum going. When questions come up, and they will, Shopify's AI assistant Sidekick is there with answers so you never lose momentum. You can check out the store at vsin.com/store. And if you're ready to build your own, all you need is the idea. Shopify handles the rest. Start your free trial at shopify.com/vsin. Shopify.com/vsin. Again, that's shopify.com/vsin.
You always follow the money.
Yeah. This is Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Paulie Howard on VSiN.
Here we go. Welcome in. It is Follow the Money on VSiN, the sports betting network. Mitch Moss, along with I have the need for Swede, Dustin Sweetelson on the program this week for vacationing Paulie Howard. And we have a 3-hour banger lined up for you today. You have seen The Odyssey.
I have.
We will talk about it from a betting standpoint coming up bottom of the hour. Richard Roper is going to join the program. I have not seen it yet. On vacation last week, a 2-year-old as well. Borderline impossible I can get out in the next month to watch this movie.
Yeah.
It's, 3 hours?
It's 2:45 actual action. I know that because I started a stopwatch.
I do that sometimes.
Because I knew I'd need a bathroom break.
Yeah.
And I want to time it out because, the last hour of a 3-hour movie is going to be great. So when I thought there was about an hour to go, I got up and went to the restroom, so I'd be good to go. I missed 3 minutes of the plot, but at this point, it's a 27-year-old script. I kind of know where it's going.
Yeah, 2,700-year-old script. Yeah. So Richard's going to join the program. You can bet the stuff right now, obviously. Do we just lock it up? Like, who's going to beat The Odyssey for Best Picture? Is it? Well, you have some doubts about it, though, huh?
Okay, so I think it's going to win because it's a spectacle. I think the way it looks, the shots, you feel like you're on this journey with Odysseus. But there's certainly some blind spots. The question I want to ask Roper is, when we bet on awards for the NFL, for MVP, we're handicapping the voters. What are the voters like? What are they looking for? Because I think if they're really artsy people and they believe in dialogue and the script and telling the story, they might have doubts about The Odyssey.
Yeah, that's so I've heard. Also on the program, Jensen Lewis, Major League Baseball. He's been on fire with his picks, VSiN.com, and also VSiN by the books, the morning show here on the network. And Brett Ciancia is going to join the program. Pick six college football previews coming up in a couple of hours on the show. We'll get into your Heisman bets, how many teams we think can win it this year in college football. I think my list is shorter than yours.
Probably.
With that list. And also, okay, so with that, with awards, and we'll begin the show with a little Major League Baseball here. First of all, the Red Sox, this is ridiculous. 17-3 this month.
When you left for vacation, what were they at that point?
Not close to what they are right now.
They
were blazing hot, obviously, before the break. It has continued. 7.5 out of the American League East, currently the second wild card team. The Brewers are 14-8 this month. That's the team that I have a bet on. JVT earlier, like 2 episodes ago on Pod of the Futures, you were in last week. He said, "Hey, take a peek at the Red Sox 6-1 to make the playoffs." And Gil has them 80-1 for 80-1.
80-1. You hit that one, it pays for a lot of mistakes. I tell you that.
That's an unbelievable ticket from Gil.
Also, what the heck was he seeing in this team that completely underachieved? Now, I think if we're going to correlate this to the futures market, which you and I love messing with, how is Chad Tracy not your manager of the year?
Yeah.
This team was left for dead.
In the American League?
And he's doing it, by the way, without Garrett Crochet, his Cy Young contender, Roman Anthony, who people thought was going to be an MVP candidate. He's doing it without those guys.
That's very true.
I don't know if I buy Boston big picture, but I don't know if I buy anyone in the American League.
Well, that's the thing, right? Is that I think you kind of, now all the big numbers are gone, obviously, on this team, but you kind of have to buy them because right now we're watching. If I hear more people make the case, just be patient, it's going to be the Mariners' year. It's not the Mariners' year. Maybe the team that they're getting pounded by today, the Rangers, maybe it's their year.
Maybe.
Again. But again, in the American League, there isn't really a single team that I can trust. And I was going to say fully trust. Forget about that. Like halfway trust. I'm not even there.
I'm done with the Mariners. I had them a little bit from the preseason. I've had them, I think, the last 3 years to win the World Series. At some point, you just go, you know what? You're never going to get it done. How does Jerry Dipoto keep a job when it's the same storyline every year with Seattle? Hey, the pitching's great if they can find some offense. Hey, the pitching's great. Maybe they'll find a bat along the way. They found a couple bats last year. They brought in Suarez, who might be on the market again out of Cincinnati. They brought in Naylor, who they kept this year. They still can't hit. And oh, by the way, Gilbert, Wu, this whole rotation, I think they are so overrated, man. When one is hot, the rest of them aren't. One of them picks it up. The others fall back. Today, I back Seattle and George Kirby. And this is a spot where he's so good. Lifetime against Texas. An absolute dud. They're losing 7-2.
Well, the year feet today was plus 130 in that neighborhood. And, of course, Jock Peterson hit his first of multiple home runs in this game today off of George Kirby. I think last year was the year for Seattle.
I think you're right.
Looking back now, that could be a little Captain Obvious here. But they had all of it coming together last year. Like, all of those pitchers were performing at almost a peak level. Gilbert was awesome. Kirby was really, really good. You had Brian Wu, who would give you 6 innings every single start, right? Munoz was automatic out of the bullpen. Yeah. And then they made all those big moves at the deadline, and it was working. And they had the Blue Jays dead to rights to go to the World Series, and it flopped. And now I'm kind of wondering, like, are we seeing the truer colors from this pitching staff? And maybe it was last year kind of like the outlier where they were all so good kind of simultaneously.
Yeah, no, I think we've seen it. And I think they're going about this completely wrong. The rumor is they're shopping Emerson Hancock, who they've turned into like a swingman, into a legitimate starter
for sure.
I don't know if he's an ace. I don't think he keeps this up. He's certainly, if you're a playoff team, if he's your 4th or 5th starter, you're fine. You're okay. You're probably on the better side. Why are they shopping the worst of the pitchers? Sell high on one of these bums you keep in the rotation that you're going to have to pay more down the road.
Yeah, you will.
You're a cheap team. Why would you not operate from a strength? Because you need an everyday player. You can't have a guy every 5th day being so impactful on this roster. Get rid of one of these starters, turn it into an impact bat, and make this happen offensively. That division's horrible. In my brain, I'm already thinking Houston might add its 2 starting pitchers.
Maybe.
And they might win this division.
Yeah, they could. They could. I mean, by default, kind of, right? Also, last year, we all kind of expected regression this year from Cal Raleigh. It was the most obvious thing that you're ever going to get, but not like this.
You saw the quote?
No.
Oh, he was asked yesterday, are his struggles related to being benched in the WBC? And he's like, well, not to make excuses, but I didn't get a lot of at-bats because I was benched in the WBC, which means I didn't get more at-bats in spring training and coming to the year, but I'm not making excuses. He literally just made excuses after saying he wasn't going to make excuses.
Wow, and this weekend is August. And that really is going to have an impact on the entire year for him, huh? Okay, sure.
Yeah, it's as if there weren't hundreds of at-bats since then to get up to speed.
No kidding. So I think this is kind of like the Eastern Conference right now in the NBA. You're kind of throwing darts right now with the way that the numbers have been molded into place. Would you take the Tigers?
Okay.
Is that the team?
I'm glad you brought it up. I've been so wrong about so many teams. Preseason Orioles, I still thought they could figure it out. Not enough pitching. Detroit, I have been very bullish on lately. They're not making me look good. You can't lose 2 or 3 to Kansas City over the weekend like they did. If they're going to do this before the deadline and hold on to Skubal, Bowl, they've got to win these series that they're supposed to win. True. That is my concern about them. Skubal Bowl looks awesome. I think Detroit is making a mistake if they don't trade him, but I don't think they're going to trade him. I think they're desperate. I think they believe with him healthy, they have a chance. To me, if you're throwing a dart, that is the dart throw, because 22-1 to win the American League. It was 28-1 about 10 days ago. You set up a series, Mitch. You can set up Skubal 3 times in one series. You're better than the other pitcher on the other side almost every sure. matchup you have.
It's almost, this is the second time in 3 years this might happen with Detroit, because there was, and I will not forget this, because Paulie and I were doing mornings. There was a Sunday night game, and I had tickets on Emmanuel Class A at the time to win the American League Cy Young. Yep. And Hinch came out after the game on Sunday Night Baseball and said that we're thinking about shutting down Skubal. It was like the middle of August, right? I'm like, okay, if they're going to shut him down, Class A can actually pull this off, and I'm going to win so much money, it's going to be ridiculous on him.
Yeah.
That never happened. They got scorching hot. They kept pitching Skubal, and they made a run in the playoffs. And now, does that same thing happen to where it could be actually a longer-lasting impact long-term for this team, meaning that they had it all lined up, they were in the tank for the most of the year, they knew that they were going to trade Skubal at the deadline, and now all of a sudden they're warming up again in a league that can be had. And if they say, we kind of need to pivot here, boys, and keep this guy, and why not us this year?
They have the 21st schedule remaining in terms of strength. Well, here's the problem. It's because they play in the Central. Minnesota's 25th, Kansas City's 26th, Cleveland is 30th. That's them beating up on each other. I think the division is as right there with the to make the playoffs. I think they have a chance to still win this division because no one's running away with it. this is a desperate organization. This is the one last gasp for hope in this run with Scooble because he's gone once he hits free agency here. I understand and I respect wanting to be all in, but if you're a GM, the way you keep your job is you build for the future. You make this team relevant for a long time. Look at James Wood and C.J. Abrams, part of the Juan Soto package, what they're doing for Washington right now. Detroit's got to look at that and go, hold on. We got to do the smart thing here.
Yep. You can't pull an Ohtani with the Angels.
Junior Caminero.
Can't do that. Yep. Same thing. Okay, so let's get down to brass tacks here. The National League MVP race, I think, appears to be wide open. And I cannot believe those words came out of my mouth.
I don't understand the pricing of Shohei Ohtani still.
There's one book here in town that has him at minus 700.
How?
I think they just haven't adjusted yet.
It's just because the pitching, because he shows up in pitches and he was great. Don't get me wrong, but he's not pitching the rest of the way. His offensive numbers are not that different than the rest of the pack.
So, okay, do you really think that he's not going to pitch the rest of the way?
I think sparingly, but is that if he pitches 5 more times the rest of the way, is that enough for him to win the award just because he pitches and hits?
PCA for the Cubs is one of 3 players since 2010 to have an F-WAR of 7 or higher on June 25th or earlier. Trout did it in 2018, Aaron Judge in 2025. PCA is the 3rd player to do that. Plus, defensively, he's elite. He's the best defensive player in the entire league. And this is going back to the last 45 games. When you look at his overall numbers, batting average of 358, on base 467, slugging 728 with 16 home runs, 13 RBIs. I checked that, 13 stolen bases and an OPS of 1,200. He's the first player in history to get all of those marks in a 45-game span in any single regular season.
I have no exposure to the guy. I think he should be the favorite. I genuinely believe that. I think the numbers are that great. And I did a little project where I said, all right, let me ask AI, what's the 162-game projection on these guys the rest of the way? PCA's having a better year than Ohtani. So comparatively, Ohtani 286, 38 homers, 104 ribbies, 113 runs, 10 steals. PCA, his average is about the same. OPS is higher, 2 more homers, 1 more ribby, 9 more runs, and 18 more steals.
It's absolutely this hot streak that he is on, along with, by the way, a couple of other players. We'll expand on this coming up because if Ohtani doesn't pitch the rest of the way, I don't think he's going to win the award.
I agree.
So then, but now the number on PCA is it's toast. You can't bet on that right now. I think there are a couple of other guys to maybe take a peek at. And in the NFL, by the way, it appears to be fairly serious with Aaron Donald. We'll look at this. I love the Rams team this year. Who doesn't? But I hate it when this happens as a better. I'll explain coming up next.
So you're listening to this podcast because you want an edge. But what if I told you you're only halfway there? You've got the mindset. Now it's time to get the toolkit to match. Here's the thing. Pro bettors spend thousands on data and tools, but what they don't want you to know is you can get the same edge for a fraction of the cost with VSiN Pro. With VSiN Pro, you get access to expert picks, public betting data, prop projections, powerful tools, analytics, and more. Tap the link in the description and see why thousands of bettors are already using VSiN Pro to cash more bets. On this show, we follow the money, and when VSiN decided to launch our own store, the smart money was on Shopify. Getting the VSiN store off the ground was easier than we expected, and Shopify's templates and AI tools had us look incredible and professional from day one. 0 coding required. Shopify checkout keeps sales moving smoothly, and returning customers can complete a purchase in 1 click. Built-in analytics, you always know what's selling and where your customers are coming from and how to keep the momentum going. When questions come up, and they will, Shopify's AI assistant Sidekick is there with answers so you never lose momentum. You can check out the store at vsin.com/store. And if you're ready to build your own, all you need is the idea. Shopify handles the rest. Start your free trial at shopify.com/vsin. Shopify.com/vsin. Again, that's shopify.com/vsin.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
I feel like the Odyssey, the way it has been pumped into our veins from like social media and TV and previews and how Nolan and all the actors have been all over, it's got to be like one of the biggest blockbusters of all time. And we'll expand on that here. Mitch Moss, along with Dustin Sweetelson, as Richard Roper, kind enough to join the program, longtime friend of the show. His podcast is called The Movie of Your Life with Richard Roper, which is a great title for a podcast, and he's on the Progressive Guest Line. Richard, been a long time. Thanks for joining us today. How are you?
So good to talk to my old friend Mitch. Dustin, good to talk to you as well. How are we doing, guys?
Doing really well. So overall, when you were sitting there the first time in the theater and watching The Odyssey, give or take, 10 days ago, a couple of weeks ago, whenever it was, your thought process going on as you were watching the movie unfold and then when it was over with?
Great question. I actually got a chance to go out to New York and interview Christopher Nolan. So, of course, before the interview, I got to see the movie. So I saw it at the Lincoln Square IMAX, which is probably one of the 10 biggest in the world, guys. And there was maybe 15 of us in the screening room in the theater, because it wasn't yet opening to the public. And it just enveloped me, And, here's the thing. There's so much hype about, the first feature film shot entirely on IMAX, and that's incredible. But if that was it, then after 15 minutes, that kind of wears off. You're watching a movie. It's like, remember the 3D movies were such a big deal, but after a while, you're like, okay, it has to have a story. It has to have great emotional weight, amazing performances, take some big swings that I know might not work for everybody, but the material itself is kind of crazy. I thought it succeeded on all those counts.
Now, Richard, I went and saw the movie last week. It's a spectacle, right? You get immersed in it. You feel like you're on this adventure with Odysseus, but there are detractors out there that have some issues with the dialogue and the script, and then some people I don't necessarily agree with the casting in some regards. How big of a role do you think that is in the people who vote for this? Like, help us understand the people who vote for this and if they will care about some of those details that people are bringing up as complaints.
That's the thing. You got to remember the Academy Awards, and they've expanded the Academy membership. It's about 11,000 people now, but these are professionals in the business, and they're already starting Academy screenings where they can see it in Los Angeles in the screening rooms. And what my sources are telling me, that people are blown away by it, people in the industry, because they do look for the technical expertise, the big leaps of faith that you have to take. And listen, you don't want a literal adaptation of Homer's The Odyssey. You fell asleep when you were in junior in college when you had some professor trying to take you through that. So what I like, guys, is actually, this is a story with Cyclops monsters and a sorceress who can turn men into pigs and weather gods, So what I loved about it is that Christopher Nolan actually made all of that accessible, because it's really the story. It's a modern story. It's a guy in a midlife crisis who's trying to get home to his wife and son. That's what it comes down to. Who's realized the errors of his ways, who never should have maybe gone on this journey, has run into all kinds of trouble, is not maybe the great leader he thought he was, and now just wants to get home. And that's what this story is.
Okay, well said. Follow the money here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Richard Roper, our guest on the Progressive Guest Line. From a betting standpoint, Richard, and this yesterday at Kalshi, The Odyssey was 55% to take home Best Picture for this year. I get it. It's very early. You have to wait until March to win this bet. Today it's at 49%, so it has ticked down a little bit. My question to you would be, do we lock up money on the yes with this picture right now, or do you think there's actually a film in the next 5 months that can steal the award from it?
Well, you look at it like when, you guys, like, let's say there's a big golf tournament coming up, right? And, Scotty Scheffler's the favorite, but even he's maybe 6-1 or 8-1 going into the tournament because there are 100 golfers, right? And same thing with the Oscars. So something that's close to 50% is actually a huge favorite. I would actually advise waiting a little bit, because those numbers might come down where it's at 39%, 42%, just because another picture will be getting 16%, another picture will be getting 34%, whatever the case may be. There are some films coming out, and sometimes they come out of nowhere in the fall. And the other thing is, I'm starting to see this myself. When The Odyssey came out, it had almost 100% of Rotten Tomatoes, almost 100% on IMDb and all that stuff. I was at a party the other night, a reception, and a guy comes up to me. He was almost angry about my review of The Odyssey. How could you give it 4 stars out of 4? It's a 3-star movie. I like Interstellar. And I was like, first of all, dude, settle down. We're at a wedding reception. I said, it's just my opinion. And I told him, I said, your opinion's valid too. Everybody has their own take. But you guys know, same thing happens in sports. If someone becomes universally loved, then it's time to take them and knock them off the pedestal. So now we're starting to see a couple of pieces. You're going to see some contrarians. I think it's the most overrated movie of the decade. I can't stand the American accents. It should be the Greek actors. Nolan doesn't have any heart. All these kind of, conventional, easy, it's easy to make the counter argument. So I would say wait a little bit before placing a bet.
Where do you put it in the rankings for Christopher Nolan? Obviously, he won for Oppenheimer just a few years ago. Dark Knight's in there, Inception. I still stand by The Prestige. I know that was a long time ago. That's my favorite. Where would you rank The Odyssey among the Nolan films?
The Prestige is so good. So good if people haven't seen it. The way, if you watch it, it's one of those movies like Usual Suspects or Sixth Sense. When you watch it the second or third time and you know what's going to happen, it almost makes it better because you see how they lay the little crumbs down. The Prestige, very early on, they pretty much tell you what's going on without telling you, as they do with The Sixth Sense. As they do in the opening scene of The Usual Suspects is Gabriel Byrne on his knees looking up at a killer. But we're like, is that the reality or not? So I love that you mentioned The Prestige. It's interesting because we talk about the greatest Nolan film, I would say, is either Oppenheimer or The Odyssey. My favorite, and the difference to me is how many times are you going to watch it over and over again? Am I going to watch The Odyssey 20 times over the next 10 years? No. My favorite is The Dark Knight. That's my go-to. Yeah. If you said, hey, tonight you're having a bunch of friends over or you're going to a screening room, you're going to have a get-together and you're going to see that's the movie I'd say, let's all watch The Dark Knight together.
Yep, totally agree. It's absolutely stellar. In terms of overall movie experiences, and you've seen, I think you told us before, what is it, more than 10,000, whatever that number is for movies? Where would you rank The Odyssey in terms of the overall movie experience?
See, that's a great question, too, because it's, you think about when you first see a movie, and for me, of course, I'm lucky enough to see them in advance in screenings and screening rooms going back to the late 80s. And there are certain memorable moments, like I remember seeing Do the Right Thing and thinking, this is special and this is going to start a conversation. It's a great movie, but it had that effect. It certainly was the case with Pulp Fiction. I knew Quentin Tarantino's work from him writing A True Romance and doing Reservoir Dogs, but Pulp Fiction, the first half hour, and you're like, wait a minute, now we're going back in time. Wait, this is bending this way. And Saving Private Ryan, the first 20 minutes, when I saw that on a big screen, I thought, well, here come the Oscars. So I would put The Odyssey up there among those experiences, top 10 in terms of a screening where I'm saying we're going to be talking about this movie 25 years from now. Sometimes you see a great film, but are you really going to be talking about it 25 years from now, 30 years from now? And it's one of my favorite all-time viewing experiences.
And I think it's very important. You mentioned seeing it on the big screen. I made the mistake. I saw Oppenheimer at home. I didn't have the feel. The Odyssey absolutely has to be seen in a theater. Before we let you go, though, Richard, I am one of these contrarians that is obsessed with Project Hail Mary. I don't believe it has a chance to win it, even though I think it is the feel-good movie of the year. What are your thoughts of what they did in, a script that's been around for a while? I went in being like, hold on, the dude's in space with a rock alien. How am I going to fall in love with the movie? But I was emotional on an airplane watching it by the time it was over.
I was too. I love that movie. If there was an Audience Choice Award, I think it would win it. I think it's amazing this year. Some of the most likable and my favorite characters in movies have been the sheep in The Sheep Detectives and the Rocky character in Rocky. These inanimate, non-human but wonderfully human personalities. I love Project Hail Mary. That's in my top 5 of movies seen this year. Okay.
Is there a movie or a TV show or multiple TV shows that you would recommend right now to the audience that we absolutely have to watch for the remainder of the summer?
Here's a series that I think is a little under the radar, and I think you guys and your audience will like. It's called The Westies. It's on MGM Plus, which not everybody gets. It's got J.K. Simmons, and it's about the Irish gang in the 1980s that went up against John Gotti and the Italian Mafia. And they are outnumbered 200-1, and they still gave them a run for their money. It's called The Westies.
Oh, that sounds
How have I never heard of this?
Yeah, no kidding.
This is awesome. J.K. Simmons rules.
Yeah, he's as good as it gets. Follow him on X at Richard E. Roper. The podcast is called The Movie of Your Life with Richard Roper. Pleasure as always, my friend. Thanks for the time today. We appreciate that.
Let's not go too long before talking again, guys.
Back at you. There you go, on the Progressive
All
Guest
right.
line.
Take care.
The Odyssey, you got to see it, Mitch, because
I will.
here's why you got to see it. I was peer pressured by your partner. Paulie would not shut up. He was doing every segment was another Odyssey take. I was like, all right, I'm filling in for you. I got to go see this movie or else I'm not going to know what he's talking about.
Yeah, he gets like that when he likes something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I wrote down a couple of movies. Not best movies I've ever seen. Experience overall.
Ooh.
He brought up one, and it's one of the best movies. Saving Private Ryan at the theater was because old grizzled men, gray-bearded men who fought in wars left, and it felt like leaving a funeral. And the other one, again, I'm not calling it the best movie, Avatar 3D in the theater.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Wow. The new one or the original?
No, the new one. I don't even know. Oh, no, I'm sorry. The
Yeah,
original.
the original.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll get into some best bets today in Major League Baseball coming up next.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
Coming up in 15 minutes, we'll get into a little Heisman Trophy talk and kick around the list of teams we think can actually win the national title this year in college football. I think my list of teams will be shorter than D. Sweezy's here.
Yeah, I like to live in a world where anything's possible, but where's that really gotten me in life? Not that far.
That far,
sitting
huh?
next to you is kind of the high point.
Chuckles and Knucklehead here, sitting here live in Las Vegas from the Circa Resort and Casino. Let's go to the Progressive Guest Line, get some best bets tonight in Major League Baseball. Jensen Lewis joins the program now. VSiN by the books, weekday mornings at 7 a.m. Hey, Jay Lou, we appreciate the time as always. We'll get into your best bets on tonight's card coming up in a minute. We started the show today talking a little National League MVP. Like, how open do you think this thing is? Like, are we living in a dream world where we think somebody other than Ohtani can win it if he doesn't pitch again this year?
Yeah, great to be with you boys, and always great to chop it up. I think you're on to it there, Mitch, that I am still very scared of the word indefinitely that Dave Roberts has used about Ohtani getting back on a mound, let alone getting back into a big league game. So I think you're to September at the earliest, if then. That's pretty significant. And so I do think we live in a world where this thing now becomes wide open. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mitch. I feel like you and Dustin earlier, I was listening to you guys coming home, and I think you have a long ticket on PCA, which I think is extremely live right now. And then James Wood and CJ Abrams, a lot is going to be predicated on where the Nationals are headed into September. You guys know as well as I do, Narrative Street is huge when it comes to these things. As long as CJ Abrams doesn't get traded, sounds like he's not going to. I think he's 1B with James Wood being 1A. I would lean to a James Wood ticket right now before CJ Abrams, just knowing James Wood, guys, is going to score 100 runs before the month of August gets here, which is just insane to think about. So very live if you have the long PCA ticket in pocket, and I would be a little weary of Ohtani, knowing that I'm not going to push him with that knee inflammation because he's so important from a designated hitter position.
J. Lou, you like to live dangerously like we do. Mitch sent me a note before the show, and I thought it was right in line with the thinking I had preseason, which I had Paul Skeens to win the MVP at 40 to 1, 100 to 1, something like that. Jacob Mizorowski's 125 to 1 right now. Do you think the numbers and the narrative is strong enough where if Ohtani falls back and maybe PCA doesn't finish that strong, could we build up a case for Mizorowski to do what Verlander and Kershaw have done recently and win both the Cy Young and MVP?
I like where your head's at, Dustin. My fear would be is that Milwaukee is really going to limit his innings down the stretch here. And you've seen it already play out, that if he goes longer than 5 innings, I'll be kind of shocked down the stretch here. He's at 120 right now. Christopher Sanchez is at 138.2. And I don't think he's going to get to, that innings threshold that some of the other contenders will. I am very anxious to see where Chris Sale ends up at the end of this. I think he's got the chance to go on a dominant run. But as far as where you are from an MVP perspective, boy, I think it remains a long shot there. I would rather invest looking at CJ before I would even take a shot on Mizorowski, just knowing that Milwaukee it's been an open secret. They want to absolutely make sure that Miz is healthy into the end of the season and then be able to kind of unleash him and not worry about the innings threshold when they get to October.
Follow the money here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Our guest, Jensen Lewis. You can listen to him and Dave Ross. Watch them as well. YouTube TV and beyond every single morning at 7 o'clock Eastern with VSiN by the books. Your best bets for tonight. Let's get into a couple of plays that you have labeled your 2.5 unit plays. We'll begin Braves, Mets, total here about 8.5. Perez goes against Thornton, the scheduled starters here tonight. How do you want to attack this one?
Yeah, we'll play an over 8.5 here, Mitch. And a couple of things to keep in mind here. Braves have scored 60 runs in 10 games since the All-Star break. That is fourth most in Major League Baseball. You get Ronald Acuna Jr. back tonight. That'll be a nice jolt to the top of the lineup. Braves are 22-17-2 to the over as a road favorite, which they will be at least in some places tonight. The reason why I also like some offense from both sides, Martin Perez for the Braves tonight, 5.71 ERA in his last 4 starts, but it's 13 walks also in 17 1/3. So plenty of traffic, even without Juan Soto on the IL here for the Mets. I got to tell you, I know this is kind of zigging where people are zagging. Zach Thornton's been unbelievable. Yeah. The young left-hander here for the Braves. Mets, though, still 11-7-2 to the over as a home dog in some spots. So, again, shop around on it. But just looking earlier this morning, guys, situationally, feel that the way the Braves are swinging it, plus getting Acuna back, and then also knowing that Martin Perez has really allowed a lot of traffic here the last 3 to 4 times out, like the over 8.5 if you can find it tonight.
Martin Perez, by the way, fellas, that's my guy I'm never on the right side of. If I bet on him, he stinks. If I bet against him, he's Cy Young. Kind of like Iowa football. I'm just never on the right side. All right, next game for you here, J. Lou. Diamondbacks and Pirates. Merrill Kelly, Mitch Keller, probably 2-3 years ago. That was an elite pitching matchup. Plus 102 Arizona on the road. Keller minus 123 with the Buccos at home. 9.5 the total. What do you want to do?
Yeah, so this morning, guys, I had taken a unit on the under, and then I cashed out of it just kind of seeing where some of the other trends were going here. I'm going to go play the over 8.5 now. It is a little bit juiced in the price that I got at $1.50, but again, kind of back to the same refrain. Guys, the Pirates best in baseball as a home favorite to the over, 25-6. And Mitch Keller, a 6.75 ERA over his last 9 starts with a field independent pitching of over 5.6, which is ridiculously high. Parlay that with Arizona, 63 runs scored in 10 games since the All-Star break. That is second most in Major League Baseball to only the Washington Nationals. I'm not going to get in the way of it. I thought I might get cute a little bit and see, where, Merrill Kelly and Mitch Keller have been going. I liked a little bit more of Merrill Kelly. But, man, this Pirate offense might be able to find a way to punch through, and I think Arizona takes advantage of Keller being up in the zone. Here's
another game, too, by the way, and I'm trying to think, like, the whole national narrative. Like, let's say that Chase Burns for the Reds finishes some crazy – let's say he's like 20-1. He's 12-1 on the year with a sub-2.5 ERA. It's going to be the least talked-about guy with 20 wins that I can ever remember in my entire life, and it never happens anymore for the most part. And he's taking on a Guardians team tonight, and the Reds are big favorites, obviously. He's also – I think he's only lost 1 first 5 this entire year, Chase Burns. So, J. Lou, what's your play here on this game?
Let's start with the Burns angle because it is a strong one here, Mitch. 7 straight home starts where he's allowed 3 runs or fewer. You can go all the way back to April 16th when that streak started. Reds have been a paltry offense, though, here as of late. 37 runs since the All-Star break. That's 19th in Major League Baseball, and usually you see the uptick at Great American Ballpark. But Slade Ciccone going for the Guardians here in the battle for the the battle for the Ohio Cup. 7 straight road starts where he has actually allowed 3 runs or fewer. That streak is since May 7th. And for whatever reason, guys, Ciccone can get you into a little bit of a cluster here as a hitter where you should see it well, and then all of a sudden it's by you. It's a deceptive fastball and sinker, and as long as he has some decent breaking stuff tonight, the injury to Spencer Steer is going to be a problem for the Reds. They have, outside of Elly De La Cruz, there has not been a lot to write home about with this offense. So I'm going to err on the side of both these pitchers kind of continue their trends, both home and road, and then also a couple of offenses that since the second half has started, guys, has really lacked a lot of production.
We were kicking around this play as well, so we like where your head's at. Philadelphia laying 1.5 on the road at Miami. The Marlins can't get out of their own way. Wheeler feels like he's got a chip on his shoulder. Minus 1.5 now is minus 113 on the road with the Phils. Total 7.5. They're minus $2 on the money line, plus 160 with the Fish. Talk to me about the process with the Phillies.
Man, you're right, Dustin. He is absolutely PO'd for the snub at the All-Star break, and that is a dangerous animal to try and wrangle. This is a great spot situationally. Of course, the Marlins on that historic 12-game losing streak, they're averaging only 2.5 runs scored during that, and 3 runs or fewer scored in 10 of their last 12 overall. I would say that Wheeler, too, great spot. And I think, Dustin, I heard you talk about wanting to ladder the strikeouts. I'm all for that. He's had 3 straight starts now, allowing 2 runs or fewer, and the Phillies average almost 5 runs of support in the games that he has started since he's come off the injury list. I'm not getting in front of it. I don't think anything changes here tonight. Phillies with a big outburst in Sunday Night Baseball. I think it carries over to South Beach tonight.
All right, same thing with the Brewers tonight. They cover this game by margin, win by 2 runs or more at the Giants.
Yeah, Giants have been bad. This is just a situational spot, Mitch, where we're getting a pitching mismatch. Tyler Mahle, who gets it for the Giants tonight, almost a 5 ERA in his last 4 starts. 5 innings or fewer, too, in 3 of those last 4. And then Brandon Sproat, 5 straight starts allowing 2 runs or fewer. He's at a 2.74 ERA. Just love the mismatch here. And this Brewers offense, guys, well-oiled machine. They can beat you in so many different ways. Love them to continue those good vibes out there in the Bay Area.
Very good. Pleasure as always, Jensen. We appreciate it. Best of luck tonight.
Thanks, guys. Talk to you soon.
There you go. Jensen Lewis on the Progressive Guest Line, 7 a.m. every day, right here, Monday through Friday with Dave Ross, VSiN by the books.
You think I passed Paulie for most papers used on the network on the desk at one time?
You might be there.
I was trying to organize during the break, and I realized Paul's consolidated now that he actually uses a computer. When I produced you guys, Paul was on his phone the entire show.
Yeah, and I think that he has pushed like 30 papers on the desk at one time.
I'm pretty close right now.
You're getting there. Dial it back a little bit there, pal. College football up next. You love betting the Heisman Trophy.
Love it.
Okay, I feel like there is one player I need as a FOMO bet this year. Is it a wise investment or burning money? I'll ask D. Sweezy next.
On this show, we follow the money, and when VSiN decided to launch our own store, the smart money was on Shopify. Getting the VSiN store off the ground was easier than we expected, and Shopify's templates and AI tools had us look incredible and professional from day one. 0 coding required. Shopify checkout keeps sales moving smoothly, and returning customers can complete a purchase in 1 click. Built-in analytics, you always know what's selling and where your customers are coming from and how to keep the momentum going. When questions come up, and they will, Shopify's AI assistant Sidekick is there with answers so you never lose momentum. You can check out the store at vsin.com/store. And if you're ready to build your own, all you need is the idea. Shopify handles the rest. Start your free trial at shopify.com/vsin. Shopify.com/vsin. Again, that's shopify.com/vsin.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
Dialed into some college football. It's going to be here quicker than you think, right around the corner the way it feels now. We'll go out to the Progressive Guest Line now. Brett Ciancia joins the program. He's the man in charge of the Pick Six Previews, College Football Magazine, and it looks tremendous and is tremendous again this year. Brett, thanks for the time today. How are you?
Hey, thanks for having me on, guys. Yeah, it's a busy time of year with the Preview Magazine, publishing and shipping across the country. Really excited to break it down with you guys. Wide open season, biggest coaching carousel we've ever seen, and thousands of players moving around in the portal. So lots to get into. Thanks for having me.
And it probably takes you the entire offseason to get ready for the upcoming football season because of all that that you mentioned there. Let's begin with the most overrated team in the country, maybe based on market numbers that you've seen out there as well, but a team that you just think, man, oh man, I don't get it with them this year.
Yeah, I launched this in 2012, and that was during the peak of the Nick Saban dynasty. So it feels strange to put Alabama this low in the magazine. I've got them 16th nationally, all the way down in 8th place in the SEC. I never thought that was possible. But when you look at this, last year it was their worst rushing offense in Alabama school history. And in the postseason there, they only managed a yard a carry, couldn't get any push, couldn't stop the run. A lot of questions. So now when you look at it forward into 2026, I don't think they solved enough of those questions. I think that you have starters leaving the program to go to Texas A&M, to go to Ohio State. It used to be the other way around where Alabama steals players. They're losing them now. So I have my concerns. The most questions I've ever seen on the Alabama preseason roster here. Like I said, 15 years doing the magazine, the most questions I've had with them.
That's crazy. It's just crazy to think about how quickly it can change. Just one decision,
yeah.
and you're irrelevant in a league that you absolutely dominated. Let's go to the other end of the spectrum. That was overrated. Who's an underrated team coming into the year?
Yeah, underrated. I like Ole Miss. This is a team that made the playoff last year, had a heck of a run. And of course, they had the off the field. It was a controversial timing, let's say, with the departure of Lane Kiffin. And the team really rallied around Pete Golding. They played well in the playoff bracket. They had a star emerge with Trinidad Chambliss. And now you look at 2026, they're back with Chambliss. But this time around, Pete Golding, he put all of his funds towards the defensive side of the transfer portal. And they signed 8 4-stars through the portal on defense. If you follow the transfer market, that's incredible on one side of the ball. So picture the Trinidad Chambliss offense, Kejuan Lacey at running back, plus now an elite defense, I think, paired with it. So I like Ole Miss plus money to get back to the playoff in 2026.
They have Louisville. They get LSU, obviously. That's their third game of the year. They're at Florida, at Texas, Georgia, at Oklahoma as well. If they navigate that schedule into a playoff berth, Chambliss is going to be live to win the Heisman, is he not?
Yeah, and I was on VSiN over the weekend, and I gave that as a Heisman pick. I think he's sitting 11-1,
yep.
And not the favorite, but remember the favorite has not won the award in I think the last 13 years. So you got to go a little bit deeper off the top line there. I like Trinidad Chambliss 11-1. Remember last year he wasn't the starter at the beginning of the year. He was a Division II transfer, battled for the backup spot, but came in after Austin Simmons was injured, and then he razzled and dazzled. He looked like Kyler Murray out there. Really impressive season. So now picture a second year in the SEC. I was also worried, too, about losing Lane Kiffin and his elite play calling and his scheme. But they hired a guy that was a former Kiffin assistant, John David Baker, and he was quoted saying they're keeping the scheme 90% the same. So you're getting that Kiffin offense again, #1 tempo in the country. They go lightning fast on offense. So I think he's going to get a ton of yards and touchdowns.
I feel like the SEC is the only league that has coaches named John David.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the only, like it's consistent. There's a 2 first name thing going on, and they go by both of them. How about this? You got Trinidad Chambliss Heisman. He's 13-1. My favorite Heisman bet from a year ago. Felt good for a while, then it completely disappeared. That's Dante Moore in Oregon. He's 10-1. Do you think he can contend? Do you think Oregon can contend to win the Big Ten and maybe even the national title?
Yeah, I'm calling it the year of the duck. I'm calling for Oregon to win the national title. They're sitting there plus 800, 8-1 to win it. I like it. And if you're a Pick Six Previews reader, you'll remember actually in last year's book, I wrote down, not for 2025, but for 2026, this team will eventually be the national champion pick in next year's magazine. Well, here we are. It's 26. I like how they played in the last fall. Top 5 on offense, top 5 on defense per my numbers. And then you bring back Dante Moore, who could have gone in the first round of the draft. Their defensive line, all 4 of the guys are all Big Ten. They recruit with the best of them. 3 straight top 5 high school recruiting classes, plus 2 top 5 transfer hauls on top of that. So I love the talent at Oregon. I know they lose their coordinators, but this is a team that's built to go the distance in the January bracket. So, I like the value there, 8-1 to win it. They're my pick outright to do so. A lot to like from Oregon this year.
Brett Ciancia is our guest. He's on the Progressive Guest Line. Pick Six Previews on X and also pick6previews.com. Beautiful magazine. And the most accurate magazine, by the way, going back several years. You said starting in 2012 when you got it going, Brett. Overall, one more thing on the Ducks here. Where do you stack up their they have tons of talent, obviously, every single year. Where do you put them compared to Ohio State, compared to Georgia, compared to Texas, maybe some other teams across the country this year?
Yeah, they're now on that tier. I know historically when you think recruiting, you would think Bama, Georgia, Ohio State, but Oregon has really elevated to that tier. I mean, you look at, like I said, top 5 recruiting every year now, top 5 transfers every year now. One thing to look a little bit ahead to, I know it's early for a mock draft, but they also have the East-West Shrine Bowl 1000 list, kind of a watch list for the pros. Oregon's towards the top, if not the top of that. I mean, you have, 15 guys that could be drafted next year. So it's a very talented team. Position groups are all solid. I don't see really any weakness. Schedule's tough. Now, if it was the old BCS era, they might stumble a couple times in the regular season, and they would have been eliminated from an old BCS format. But now you can go 10-2, and in the January bracket, that's where the 5-star depth and the NFL depth really rises to the top, and they have the horses to do so. So they're right on the same tier for me with Ohio State, with Notre Dame, Miami. Who else we got? Georgia and Oklahoma, Texas from the SEC. They're legit. I like Oregon this year.
How about in the SEC with Tennessee? You know, a year ago at this time, we were talking about the drama surrounding Nico Iamaleava and Joey Aguilar coming in. They don't really make a move at quarterback, but Heupel has a pretty good track record of being a good head coach. Win total 7.5. Would you go over or under on Rocky Top?
Yeah, this is my first win total of the year. I'm locking it in. I like Tennessee to go over the 7.5. I think it's a team that's being slept on a little bit. Like you said, it was a noisy offseason in 25, a quiet one this time around. But when you look at last year, they scored 40 points a game. It's a typical Josh Heupel offense. They bring 8 starters back off of that unit. It's a veteran offensive line, 5 stars at receiver. The only question is at quarterback. I like both guys, though. They're both top 200 recruits. I think actually Brandon Faison was a top 5 in the country quarterback. So it's a matter of who Heupel picks. And remember that last offseason, Joey Aguilar came in July. So there was no winter, there was no spring ball for him. And Heupel got him up to speed right away, finished number 2 in the conference in passing. I think it'll be a similar trajectory there. But what makes them a good bet for the over, I think, is their additions on defense. Hiring Jim Knowles, one of the best defensive coordinators in the game. The linebacker stable's overflowing with potential starters. Defensive line was bulked up. So I think you have a complete team. You have Heupel's offense, and then you have a Jim Knowles type defense on the other side. So I like 7.5 over.
Brett, the team maybe considered the longest shot with the odds to make the playoff this year. A team way down the list. Have you circled anybody that you've had your eye on? Maybe you want to place a bet on him as well.
Yeah, I would look at USC to make the playoff. I think on a higher level, I think what's going to happen with the bid split, I think it's going to be 4 Big Ten, 4 SEC this time around. Remember that last year it was 5 SEC, 3 Big Ten. I think now that the SEC added in a 9th round of conference games against each other, you're going to have a lot of 9-3 action. I can already hear the debates happening come November of which 9-3 team is better. But I think with USC, they're my pick for 4th in the Big Ten, which would then be a playoff pick. I love their offense under Lincoln Riley every year. Jaden Maiava, quarterback, big offensive line. But they just signed the number 1 high school recruiting class in the country. A lot of that came to the defensive line. 5 stars galore, freshman All-American last year, starters off other teams too. And Gary Patterson, Mr. TCU, took over the defense. He was quoted saying he's never had a defense this big. And that's 20 plus years of coaching. You know what kind of legacy he has. So I like all these quotes. I know there's usually hype with USC, but this time I'm buying it for sure.
All right, last one here, Brett. The Sooners of Oklahoma, fresh off a playoff berth. Can they run it back? Can Brett Venables do it again with John Mateer returning?
Yes, and it's all about that defense. Brent Venables always builds elite defenses, but last year was really a masterpiece. You know, I have a number in there called the negative play rate, how frequently a team is in the backfield making sacks, tackles for loss. They broke the record last year. They were living in the backfield, and most of that defense is back. You pair that elite defense with, I think, an improvement from John Mateer in his second year. He's got a healthy hand. He's got another year at the SEC level. The young offensive line is now another year older. And I think it comes together again. So I think it's a stronger version of Oklahoma than we saw last year and enough to get back to the bracket in January.
Great appearance as always, Brett. Love your stuff. The magazine shines as always. Thank you for the time and best of luck this upcoming season.
Oh, thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Anytime.
Yeah, make sure, by the way, you get your hands on that magazine.
No, it's legit.
It's phenomenal.
He does so much work, and it's not just the preseason mag. If you sign up for the year-round stuff that he does, for me, because I prep live bet Saturday and I hit the air, and sometimes there's 7, 8, 9, however many games on the air, he makes my prep so much easier because he condenses everything down. This is the offense, defensive matchups. Here's where they rank, and then you get all these other details that you really can't find in one place anywhere else.
It's simple. Pick6previews.com. Pick6previews.com is the website. Our best bet in pocket plays coming up next.